I'm AJ, and I'm of a little bit of a story to tell. A couple weeks ago, the young lady I was courting, me and her were going through Romans 12. And as we were going through Romans 12, we came to verse 10. And verse 10 says I'll read it real quick for y'all. It says to love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor. And as she read that, she asked the question, what if you did that in your life? Like, what if that was your goal every day in life, was to show brotherly affection and to outdo one another in honor? What would that change? And what does that mean? That means to serve one another, lift one another up, be like a brother to somebody else, like be there for them and serve and lift them up and do all of that, like putting them above yourself and like being humble. Like being humble is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And a story that goes along with that happened to me a couple months ago. I was driving here, and on the side of the road, I seen a lady crawling on the road. And I specifically remember just the agony on her face. And it was really just saddening for me to see. And the first thing I thought was like, I have to help this lady. I can't just leave her there. But then all of a sudden my mind started to fill with doubt and just, I'm going to be late to work. Well, there's nowhere to park on this main road with stranger. Like, I don't know who this lady is. And as I'm just debating this in my mind, I made the decision to just keep going. And I regret that decision. And the Lord convicted me after, and I told God, and I said, if you just give me one more chance, just if there's someone else like I can serve, there's another opportunity I have, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be obedient and do it. And He gave me another chance, another test, an opportunity. And that was Christmas Eve service right after. I was headed to my sister's house. And on the way, I received a text from my dad. And he said, use the left turn lane to make a U-turn on 101st Parkway Division Road. And it was confusing for me because I wasn't even on that road at the time. So I gave him a call, and I asked him, what are you talking about? And he said, I don't know. He said he didn't even send that text message to me. And thinking of that, I was just really confused, and I shrugged it to the side, and I kept driving. Well, 5 minutes later, I see a car broken down on another intersection of a road, and there's a lady sitting at the hood with the hood open, and there's a man in a wheelchair that had just half a leg. And I see that, and like before, the first thought I said is, I need to help them. I can't just let someone sit there in need like that. But then the doubt started to get in my mind again. It's like, I'm alone. It's really late at night. I don't know who else could be in that car. What's the wise decision to make here? And I was coming up on the light with the opportunity to take a U-turn, and I was debating, and I decided to go straight. I didn't turn around. And as I passed the light, I remembered the text from my dad. And I was like, this can't be a coincidence that my dad said to take a U-turn. Well, my dad texted, but he didn't. So the U-turn on this road that I was on when I was already thinking about doing it to help someone. I was like, this has to be God. This can't be a coincidence. And so as I'm coming up to another light, I got to be obedient. So I get in the turn lane and I peer over to look at the road I'm on, and I'm like, this is the road in the text message. And so I take a U-turn, I pull up to the car, and it was a small family who wasn't from these parts. They were visiting family in town for a birthday party, and they were struggling. They were struggling. And I repeatedly asked, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Is there anything I can do? And they said there was another man that stopped earlier, but he went to get help. Something was going on with their battery of some sort. And I just kept pushing, though, is there anything I can do for you guys? And then they were kind of shrugging me off, it's okay. But I was like, I know what I can do. And I knew there was 2 kids in the car, and I had some shoes that I got for Christmas in the back of my car. I went and got my shoes. I had some money to give, and I just gave them what I had. I just served them and honored them with what I had. And Jesus tells us a story in Luke chapter 10, verse 25 to 37, that's quite similar in a way. It's the parable of a Good Samaritan. And there's a man who's beaten up, who's robbed, and he's left for dead on the side of the road. And then later on, a priest is walking along the road. He sees him. He doesn't help, but he passes along the other side of the road. Again, and then later on, a Levite comes along, sees him, doesn't help, but passes on the other side of the road. And then a Samaritan comes, sees him, but doesn't pass on the other side of the road, but instead had mercy and compassion for the man to serve and help him with what he had. And, I didn't just hear that story, but I lived it, quite literally seeing a woman in need on the side of the road, and I didn't stop. I kept going. I was that priest. I was that Levite. But, God gives us grace. And honoring and serving and helping others, like, what is honor? Honoring, in my opinion, and you could say differ, but honoring is putting someone else's good over my convenience. It's like it's convenient for me to just keep driving. And it's convenient for me to maybe just, if I'm having a conversation with someone, just to talk about what I want to talk about, or just to quote unquote listen to maybe what they're saying, but not be fully present in the moment with them. It's convenient for me not to do my chores on time. It's convenient. It's like these things are convenient, but to honor is to put their good over my convenience. And the illustration that comes to my mind when I think of this is like a hitchhiker. And a hitchhiker, like, they have their thumb up, and they're waiting for somebody to come help them or give them a ride. And what if we all had our thumb up when we were in need, or we had the opportunity to be served? Well, all of us might have our thumb up all the time. There's always some way we can be helped in some manner or form. But instead of focusing on our thumb and our needs and our wants, what if we take the focus off and look at who else's thumb? Who else needs serving? Is there any way I can help you? And that perspective can change a lot. It's like if we apply Romans 12:10 of showing brotherly affection, of outdoing one another in honor, everything can change. All of a sudden, our relationships might start to flourish. Our work environment will start to flourish. Our just conversations will be more genuine and loving. And all of a sudden, every moment, every interaction, every conversation, every thought we have becomes about serving. And that not only makes their life better, but it makes mine better too. It's generous giving in a serving manner. And I just want to challenge every single one of you, just one thing, one simple thing. Going into this new year, we all have New Year resolutions, but I want to do something a little bit different this year. So challenge you, just start this new year by serving one person. Just one person, whether that's by taking the trash out, whether that's by just, asking someone, hey, is there anything I can do for you today? Or just listening in a conversation and just genuinely caring about what someone else has to say. Just start with one person and let that multiply to 2, to 4, to 8, to 16, to 32, and all of a sudden, there's a mass amount of people that just feel loved and served. And that's what God wants us to do, because that's what he does for us. And with that, I'm going to just close in prayer.